evening. That probably didn't sound a bit like Alfred Hitchcock, but that was how he started his TV show back in the 60s. I used to watch it occasionally. Da-dun, da-da-da-da-dun, da-dun, da-dun, da-da-da-da-dun, da-dun. And as the theme music played, there was a line drawing, and if you didn't know, you wouldn't know, but he would come walking in, his silhouette would, and match the curves of that line drawing. Then the lights would come up and he'd turn, "Good evening, Alfred Hitchcock." I've heard, maybe it is or isn't true, that when he appeared on the Queen's Honors List one year, became a knight, Sir Alfred Hitchcock, his response was, "It's about time." Maybe. Tonight, this is Sippin' and Talkin'. And what we're going to be sipping is Evan Williams Bottled in Bond. This is, I think, one of the better whiskeys out there, and yet it's what they call a budget whiskey. There are people who would call it a budget banger. A budget banger. Every endeavor, every area of expertise has its jargon. I grant that. Sometimes it's very useful. I work in asset protection. We say that I customer serviced the subject. Well, that is not standard English. It's bad English. But within the context of writing a report on deterring a shoplifter, it works. Anywhere else it is just stupid, and people have taken jargon out of its proper context. Although budget banger within the whiskey context may be proper, it still sounds stupid to me. But this whiskey, this particular bottle, was $22.99. $23 for 100 proof bottled in bond whiskey from the largest family-owned distillery in the country, Heaven Hill. What did I say it was? $23. I would pay $30 for it, maybe $33. That's how good this stuff is. Has a screw top. I like that. I wished all whiskey had a screw top. It seals better. You don't have to fight the plastic or the wax to get it open. These things don't break the way corks can. So let's pour this, and then I'll start talking about what I'm here to talk about. If you're not familiar with this new series, I think I posted a test video in the first installment. What it is I sip some whiskey and I talk about whatever. In a way, let me pour this before I talk. There we go. I have learned that when I'm filming, because of the way I film, I can look at the screen and better judge where I've poured to than if I'm looking at the glass. Now you're not going to see the entire label, but at least you can see some of the label the way I'm doing it. My phone is right. The lens is over here, so I have to point my finger to the side to get it to appear right in the middle of the screen. But my phone's right there, and I can put the bottle here and the glass here, and you can still see me. And this thing records better than my laptop. It records better than my old laptop. Sheesh. But anyways, what I want to talk about while I'm sipping is these Smith's. I don't know how well you can see the entirety of the label. They're cheese bagels. And I love them. Trouble is, they're almost always just dry and hard. This bag is nice and soft. I got a confession to make. On the clock, I'm a checking out the cheese bagels, and any day where I find a bag that's soft, at the end of my shift I go, and if that bag's still there, I buy it. They are delicious. A bagel, obviously it's that donut-shaped ring of dough, but you boil it first. Not very long, as I understand. And then you bake it, and so that makes it kind of all the words I'm thinking of don't describe what I'm trying to say. But it has this chewy crust, and the inside is dense. That's the word I want. How could I forget dense? Egad, my working vocabulary is slipping out my mind. I'm not old, but maybe I'm getting old-timer's disease. On the other hand, since I was in my teens at least, I could go in the kitchen, open the cabinet, look at what's there and say, why am I here? I'm serious. I've been forgetful my whole life. My name is Forgetful Jones. No, it's Robert McKay. You saw what the channel is. Whiskey for Beginners. You saw it's a thoroughly amateur production. I'm Robert McKay, a.k.a. Forgetful Jones. How did I get there? I forget. So, let's swirl this around. Erin on Stuff and Whiskey. I just watched a video tonight in which she said this. She has trouble swirling her Glencairn, and she's trying to hold it like this. I have trouble swirling it that way too. You can do this, hold it at the top. What works for me is this grip here. I have, okay, you can see this finger is holding down here, this finger is up here, the thumb is here. Very little skin or heat is going to transfer to the whiskey that way, and I can control the glass a lot better. And probably I should, on one of these videos that I watch, because I watch almost everything Stuff and Whiskey puts out, I ought to put in a comment, say, Erin, watch some of my videos and see how I swirl it. Maybe this will work for you. On the other hand, she may look at my videos and say, ew, that is so unprofessional. She doesn't talk like that. Josh, her husband, he sounds Southern, although he ain't a hick like me. He's a urban Southerner, so he doesn't talk quite as Southern. But you swirl it, that agitates the whiskey. It puts air into the whiskey a little bit. Now, if you're swirling it right, it's not going to slosh and splash. But mainly, it gets the fumes to rising up from the surface and concentrating here at the opening of the glass. So what do I get when I nose it? The patented Heaven Hill peanut shell note on the nose. There are people who say that they consistently get a nutty note of some sort from Jim Beam juice. I don't. Very occasionally, maybe 3 or 4 times over these almost 4 years, I might have gotten something transitorily from a Jim Beam product. It's there one day, wasn't there ever before, isn't there ever again. But with Heaven Hill juice, I consistently get peanut shells on the nose. And they're there in this. What else am I getting though? Cinnamon, vanilla, caramel, maybe a little brown sugar. These are standard bourbon notes. This is good whiskey. It's not spectacular whiskey. It's not outstanding whiskey. It's not whiskey outside of the norm of bourbon. By the way, all of a sudden I thought to wonder what spelling Heaven Hill uses for their whiskey. Balcones Distilling and Maker's Mark, among a few others, spell it Wisky, no E. Most use the E, and it turns out they do here. Yeah, the peanut shells are definitely dominant on the nose. Brown sugar. Plenty of brown sugar. There's butter in there. There's cinnamon in there. And it is not, as I say, spectacularly good bourbon, but it's good bourbon. This isn't even average bourbon. This is good bourbon. And it is 100 proof, being bottled in bond. That is a legal requirement to have that designation. But other than that, I would say this is a good beginner's bourbon. And it may be, it doesn't drink real hot. So for somebody who is just getting into bourbon, maybe, I'm not saying for sure, maybe this might be a good place to start. You can always put a couple of 3 drops of water in it, and that's all you need usually to tone down the proof if it does drink too hot for you. The mouthfeel is somewhat thin. This isn't first-class whiskey. It's good whiskey, but it's not up at the top. But it is a smooth, somewhat creamy mouthfeel. It certainly doesn't strike you as watery, not at all. Somewhat thin, but not watery. And it's got a good color, by the way. It's not the darkest, but it is a good color. I don't know if there's an age statement on this. I don't believe so. I don't see an age statement, but I did notice something. Let's see if it'll show on the camera. That horizontal line there, charcoal filtered. There are those who will say that it's the Lincoln County process, charcoal filtering, which makes the difference between bourbon and Tennessee whiskey. There are a couple of 3 problems with that. First, the master distiller of Jack Daniels has said that yes, our whiskey is bourbon. We call it Tennessee whiskey as a marketing thing. Second, Benjamin Pritchard, I don't know why I always try to say the wrong name. Benjamin Pritchard is a Tennessee whiskey distillery, but the law does not require Pritchard to use the Lincoln County process because they never have. Yet they are Tennessee whiskey by Tennessee law. Third, George Dickel bourbon goes through the exact same process from mashing in to the warehouse as their Tennessee whiskey. It's just that those barrels don't fit their Tennessee whiskey profile, so they sell them as bourbon. But it's the exact same juice with the exact same process. You have a bottle of George Dickel Tennessee whiskey, a bottle of George Dickel bourbon. Both went through the same process. They might even have come off the still, one right after the other. And there was another thing I was going to mention, and I can't think what it is. But I'm not trying to start a fight. To me, it just seems ridiculous to fight about it, because the facts point to Tennessee whiskey being a variety of bourbon, just as 4-grain bourbon or finished bourbon is a variety of bourbon. I have no problem with them calling it Tennessee whiskey. Just don't be so adamantly, arrogantly insistent that it ain't bourbon at all, because the facts don't support that. And this goes through the Lincoln County process too. Charcoal filtering. Now some will say, well, the Lincoln County process is when you filter it before it goes in the barrel. Blah, blah. And they'll say, but Evan Williams doesn't do it that way. It's charcoal filtering, people. What does it bloody matter? You're still going through the charcoal mellowing, but this is bourbon. It's not Tennessee whiskey. It can't be Tennessee whiskey. It's from a Kentucky distillery. And that's another thing, by the way. You could take the exact same mash bill as Jack Daniels. You could use the exact same barrels, the exact same Lincoln County process, do everything exactly the same down to the yeast, but do it in any state except Kentucky. It would be the same whiskey, but by law it wouldn't be Tennessee whiskey. It's not the Lincoln County process that makes it Tennessee whiskey. It's Tennessee law that makes it Tennessee whiskey. But anyway, regardless of that, this is good stuff. On that sip, vanilla come in real strong. But let's think about these cheese bagels. They're not standard bagels. They're somewhat chewy, yeah, but they don't have that thick crust. And I don't know how Smith's does it. I've not worked in Smith's bakery. And I haven't even opened this bag, but you can see there's cheese all on the top of it. And when they're soft, they're good. They're fantastic. Now, I like bagels and cream cheese. I'm not going to reach way over there, but I bought a bag of bagels, everything bagels. What brand is it? Thomas Brothers or whatever it is. I bought a bag of their bagels tonight. Bought me a brick of cream cheese, and I'm going to eat on that too. I've been eating bagels and cream cheese since, when was it? I believe, and I can't swear to it, I believe it was after we'd moved to Washington and then back to California. And I've said on this channel, and I don't know how many times, I'm a Texas hick. I'm an adopted Texas hick. I hate to say it, but I was born in California. I was raised in California and Washington until I was 18. I visited Arizona and Nevada, might have been over into Idaho, and in the summer of '77, my brother, my grandmother, and my aunt and I went on a trip over through, I know we went through Oklahoma and over into Fort Smith, Arkansas, and then back across and passed through some of Texas. I can't remember where all we went now. But other than that, my first 18 years were California and Washington. Nevertheless, I've never considered myself a Washingtonian. I have rejected California. I want nothing whatsoever to do with that pestilential cesspool. I'm an adopted Texan. In fact, my grandmother moved from Texas as a young girl. She was born in 1900. As a young girl, she moved from Texas to Oklahoma in a covered wagon. And my mama was born in Oklahoma. My daddy was born in Oklahoma. As far as I know, now I don't know my mama's side as far back as I have information on my daddy's. But as far as I know, on both sides of the family, I am the first person ever born outside the South, because I'm the oldest of three brothers. And on my daddy's side, I can't remember the names. I'm not a genealogical enthusiast. But on my daddy's side, I go back at least as far as 1799 in Henry County, Virginia. My ancestors then moved into North Carolina. They lived in Buncombe County when the war came and fought. I've had 4 ancestors served in North Carolina regiments in the Army of Northern Virginia. Then after the war, they moved over into eastern Kentucky, from there down to Arkansas, then over to Texas and up to Oklahoma. And I can't fault my parents for doing it. I know they had their reasons, but they moved from Oklahoma to California. And there was a time when being proud to be a native Californian was a proper thing. There was a time when native Californians were so few and far between, and when that state was still so legitimate, I'll use that word, that you could properly be proud of being a native Californian. Not now. I'm ashamed to have been born there. And a few years ago I said, I'm not going to be a Californian anymore. I repudiate that state. I repudiate my California citizenship. And I adopted Texas as my home state. Now, I didn't deliberately start sounding like this. This is what I come to sound like living in Texas and Oklahoma. I just naturally picked it up, and it wasn't something I could prevent. And it's not something I can change. I sound like this, well, not against my will, because I'm proud to be a Texas hick. But I have to work at not sounding like this. Let me try that sentence without sounding Southern. I have to work to not sound like this. I'm not sure how successful I was. I think there was still Little Texas in there. It takes effort. But bourbon's a Southern whiskey. On the finish, I'm getting alcohol, of course. There's some spice, some cinnamon, definitely. The oak is coming in and turning to chocolate as it does. There's a sensation as of fresh spring water in there somewhere. This is not the most complex whiskey you'll ever drink. But ladies and germs, brethren and sistren, and I have heard that from the pulpit more than once from people who spoke countrified Southern English. Brethren, why not then sistren? Makes sense to me. Just like the possessives. If you got mine, then why not yourn, his'n, hern, theirn, ourn? It's more consistent than standard English. But this is not the fanciest whiskey in the world, not the most complex, certainly not the most expensive. But if I could not drink any other whiskey for the rest of my life but Evan Williams bottled in bond, I wouldn't complain too loud, because this is good whiskey. These are good bagels, even if they're not traditional. I'm going to have me one tonight. I say tonight, it is now 12:43 here in New Mexico, so I'm recording this officially very early Tuesday morning. I'm at 25 minutes. I need to cut it off for various reasons. So I move that out of the way. I raise my glass. And I'm in a Korean mood. Dupshida.